My wife called while I was out of state. I'm divorcing you. I told everyone you cheated. Hope you enjoy being hated. She smirked. I said, that's cute. 5 months later, the whole town knew the real story and she couldn't show her face. I'm divorcing you, she said over the phone, voice cold and flat. Wait, what? I asked, standing in my hotel room in Dallas, still in my work boots. I told everyone you cheated. Thought I'd give you a heads up. Hope you enjoy being hated. I took a slow breath and said, that's cute. 5 months later, our whole town knew the truth. Now she can't even go grocery shopping without people turning their backs on her. I never thought I'd be writing one of these, but I've read enough to know sometimes it helps to get it out. Plus, I know some of you have been through something similar. So maybe this story will help someone avoid what I went through, or at least see the red flags before it's too late. I'm Martin. I'm 47, been living in Knoxville, Tennessee most of my life. I work as a mechanic, blue collar, straight shooter, not much for drama. I married my wife Claudine when I was 29. We met at a Waffle House at 3 a.m. I was drinking coffee after a long shift at the shop. She was just getting off work from the hospital. She was a nurse back then, full of life, sharp-witted, had this fiery confidence about her that pulled people in. We dated for 2 years and then got married in a small ceremony behind her parents' house. We had 2 daughters together, Sarah and Jolene. My whole world. Everything I did was for them. Bought a modest house on the edge of town, fixed up the garage into a workspace, coached their softball team, all that. For a long time, I thought we had a solid life. Claudine was always the more social one. Always had plans, always texting someone. I thought it was just her personality. I was the homebody, tools in hand, grilling in the backyard, waving at neighbors. Things changed slowly. Little cracks. Fewer smiles, less conversation, more you wouldn't understand kinds of comments. I chalked it up to burnout. Maybe the stress of raising 2 teenage girls. We still had dinners. Still laughed sometimes. But looking back now, I see how distant she'd become. Last year, I got invited to a work seminar in Dallas. My cousin owns a few repair shops in Texas and asked me to help train some of his guys. It was a 5-day trip, decent pay, hotel covered, and it lined up perfectly with spring break. The girls were going to spend the week with Claudine's folks in Chattanooga. I left early Monday morning. The first 2 days went fine. I missed the girls, missed home, but figured this was just part of the job. Tuesday night, I get back to my hotel, grab a beer from the vending machine, and see 3 missed calls from Claudine. I call her back, thinking something might have happened with the kids. She picks up, says in the calmest voice I've ever heard, I'm divorcing you. I stood there with my phone pressed to my ear, heart thumping. What are you talking about? I already told everyone you cheated. With some girl from the gym. Cassandra. I've got the girls, the house, and I'll be filing by the time you get back. Hope you enjoy being hated. Then she hung up. Just like that. I sat down on the motel bed, not even fully understanding what had just happened. I don't even go to the gym. I hadn't heard the name Cassandra in my life. I called her back straight to voicemail. My phone buzzed nonstop for the next 2 hours. Texts from friends, co-workers, even the pastor from our church. Martin, I'm disappointed in you. You should be ashamed. Your daughters don't deserve this. I couldn't believe it. I didn't even know what to say. I tried to explain to a few people, but no one wanted to hear it. They'd already heard her side. Apparently, she'd told everyone she caught me red-handed. Said I'd been seeing this girl for months. That she'd kept quiet for the sake of the kids, but couldn't take it anymore. I got back to Knoxville on Friday, drove straight to our house, and couldn't even get inside. She'd changed the locks. There was a legal notice taped to the door, restraining order, temporary. Said I was a danger, unstable. More lies. I hadn't raised my voice at her in our entire marriage. But what could I do? I stayed with my buddy Richie. Slept in his garage on a cot, next to his old pool table for weeks. Barely ate. Every time I tried to call the girls, I got silence. Jolene blocked me. Sarah wouldn't even look at me when I saw her get into her friend's car outside a gas station. The worst part? Nobody wanted to hear my side. Not even the people who'd known me for 20 years. That's how fast lies spread and how slow the truth travels. About a month into that nightmare, I got a call from Nora. She owns the diner downtown. Good woman. Known Claudine since high school. She pulled me aside one afternoon and said, I didn't know what to believe, but I think you should see this. She showed me her phone. A series of texts. Screenshots between Claudine and some guy named Travis. The messages went back more than a year. Dates, hotel rooms, plans. They talked about me. How she was tired of being a wife. How she wanted a new life. One message stood out. Once I tell everyone Martin cheated, it'll be easy. I'll have everything. He won't fight. That was the moment everything shifted for me. Up until then, I was stuck in a fog, just trying to survive. But reading those messages, something broke open in me. I didn't yell, didn't cry. I took photos of every single message, backed them up, went back through old emails, bank records, everything I could find. Turned out Claudine had opened a separate bank account 6 months before the divorce. She was stashing away money. She'd even contacted a realtor about selling the house before she even told me we were separating. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I waited. And this is where it starts to get interesting. I kept my head down for the next couple weeks. I didn't try to contact Claudine, didn't call the girls again. As hard as it was, I figured trying to plead with people who'd already made up their minds would only dig the hole deeper. Instead, I focused on gathering everything. Phone records, bank transactions, emails, even gas station receipts, anything that painted the timeline of her affair and her plan to bury me. I printed it all out and made copies. 3 full binders worth. It looked like something a lawyer would bring to court for a corporate fraud case, not a small-town divorce. But I wasn't going to let her take my kids, my reputation, and my life just because she was bored and wanted to rewrite the script. In the meantime, I started noticing small cracks in her plan. A few old friends who had initially cut me off started to hesitate. One of my coworkers, Bill, came up to me at the shop and said, "Look, I don't know what really happened between you and Claudine, but I heard she's been spending a lot of time with that guy Travis. Heard he's married too." That was news to me. I did some digging. Sure enough, Travis Whitmore, 48, lives 2 towns over. Married, 2 kids, known around town for selling HVAC systems and bad life advice. The more I found out, the more disgusted I became. She wasn't just cheating, she was building an entirely new life and trying to frame me as the villain so she could jump ship guilt-free. But what got me the most was how easily people believed her. I hadn't had a single black mark in 18 years of marriage. Never missed a kid's recital, never laid a hand on anyone, barely even raised my voice. But one story, one fake impropriety, and the whole town turned on me. I started writing everything down. My memory of that first phone call, her past behavior, times she disappeared for nurse conferences that never quite checked out. I created a timeline so airtight it could have been used as evidence in a court case. Maybe one day it would be. About 2 months after she kicked me out, Claudine started showing up in public with Travis. First at the hardware store, then the local park. People noticed. Small town, it doesn't take much. At first, folks assumed she had just moved on quickly. But then someone I don't know who started asking questions. Didn't she say Martin cheated on her with a girl from the gym? So, when did that happen again? Because she and Travis seemed pretty cozy. I started hearing murmurs. Little things. Doesn't add up. Too soon. Where's this gym girl now? And just like that, doubt started to creep in. People were confused, but still too polite, or too nosy, to say anything to my face. Then, the real break came from the least expected place, Travis's wife. Her name's Erin. She messaged me through Facebook, real short. "I think we need to talk. I found something." We met at a small coffee shop on a Wednesday. Erin came in looking like she hadn't slept in a week, pale, tired eyes, hair tied back in a messy bun. She pulled out her phone and showed me a folder of pictures. Screenshots again. More texts. But this time, they were worse. Conversations between Travis and Claudine about getting rid of dead weight, about faking details if needed. And then one that hit me like a truck. If it comes down to it, we can say he threatened me. No one questions a scared wife. That right there? That was the line. The line between betrayal and something darker. Erin was furious, and rightfully so. Not just for being cheated on, but for being lied to and dragged into something that could have destroyed 2 families. She said she wasn't sure what she was going to do yet, but she wanted me to have the proof. I thanked her genuinely. Whatever mess I was in, she was in it now too. I took her evidence and added it to mine. By this point, I had an entire case file that showed not only had Claudine been cheating, but that she'd orchestrated a smear campaign against me, manipulated the story, and weaponized the kids and community to get what she wanted. It would have been enough for court. Damn, it would have been enough for a Netflix documentary. But I didn't rush to expose her. I waited. I waited until one Sunday morning in late August, 5 months after that phone call. The weather was starting to cool, and people were back in town after summer vacations. Church was full. The same church I hadn't been to in months because I couldn't stand the stares, the judgment. I showed up in a suit, early. Spoke to the pastor privately. Told him I wanted to say something at the end of service, not out of anger, but because people deserved to know the truth. He was hesitant, but he agreed. Maybe he'd started to suspect something himself. I don't know. After the final hymn, I walked up to the front. Claudine was there too, sitting near the front with Travis. The nerve. Like she owned the place. I didn't yell. Didn't curse. Just spoke. "I know most of you have already heard what happened between me and Claudine, and I'm not here to beg for your forgiveness. I'm not even here to defend myself. I'm here to share something you probably haven't heard, the full truth." And then I laid it all out. Not with rage, but with facts. Calm, steady, undeniable facts. I read a few quotes from the messages. Talked about the timeline. Talked about Travis. Talked about Erin. I handed the binders to the pastor. Told him he could read them himself if he had doubts. The silence in that room. I've never felt anything like it. It was like someone turned the oxygen off. Nobody moved. Claudine's face went pale, like someone had just exposed her in the middle of a stage play. She stood up and said, "You're twisting this. None of that is admissible." But no one cared about admissible. They cared about what was real. I didn't stay long, just enough to make sure the message landed. I left the church quietly, like a man finishing a job, not gloating, not looking for applause. Just done. I didn't look back at Claudine. I didn't need to. I could feel the weight in the room behind me, the stares, the whispering, the tension hanging like humidity in the air. No one followed me out. When I got to my truck, my hands were shaking. Not from nerves, from the release. 5 months of biting my tongue, being vilified, sleeping in a garage, being treated like garbage by people who used to shake my hand every week. All of it came pouring out in the quiet of that parking lot. I didn't cry. I just sat behind the wheel for a while, watching the wind move through the trees, trying to remember what breathing without pressure felt like. The real fallout didn't start until a couple days later. First, it was small. A neighbor, Paula, stopped by Richie's place with a casserole. She'd avoided eye contact for months. Now she couldn't look me in the eye for a different reason. "We didn't know, Martin," she mumbled. "I'm sorry." Then my phone buzzed. It was Jolene. "Can we talk?" For words. I stared at them for a full minute before I could even respond. We met the next day at a little ice cream shop off Kingston Pike, just the two of us. She looked older than I remembered, like the stress had aged her. Or maybe it was just me. We sat down, both unsure of how to begin. She started. "Mom told us so many things. I didn't know what to believe. But I saw what you said at church. Sarah did too." I nodded. I didn't push. "I don't know what happens next," she said, eyes filling up. "But I'm sorry for what I said. For not calling. For not being there." And just like that, the dam cracked. She cried. I cried. People walked by and gave us our space. We didn't even eat our ice cream. Just sat there talking for 2 hours about everything. About the lies. About Travis. About how hard it had been for her to hate her own father based on words alone. She told me how Mom had painted me like a monster, even made her and Sarah block me on their phones. She said it was for our safety, she whispered. I could have been angry, but I wasn't. Just relieved that the fog was lifting. That night, Sarah texted too. We talked the next day. She was colder, more guarded, always the tougher one of the two, but she listened. I told her everything, showed her the evidence, answered every question she threw at me, even the painful ones. "She made us think you were a liar," she said. "I know," I said. "And I'm sorry you had to carry that." Eventually, they started spending weekends at my place. I moved out of Richie's garage and into a small rental home on the edge of town. Not much, 2 bedrooms, a beat-up recliner, still smells faintly of the last tenant's dog, but it's mine. The girls helped me hang photos. We even cooked spaghetti together one Saturday night. They didn't say it out loud, but I could tell. This place was starting to feel like a new kind of home. The town? It started turning too. Once the story came out, people couldn't look at Claudine the same way anymore. Not after seeing the receipts. Not after realizing she'd manipulated everyone so thoroughly. Claudine stopped coming to church. Nora said she switched to another one in a different part of town, but even that didn't last. Aaron Travis's wife ended up filing for divorce, and from what I heard, she got the house in custody. Travis moved into a cheap apartment and started driving Uber on the side. Claudine tried to hang on for a while. She started posting vague stuff on Facebook, quotes about narcissists and toxic men, trying to control the narrative again. But no one bit this time. People weren't as quick to believe her anymore. They saw the pattern. She became background noise. Just someone people used to know. A few weeks later, Claudine emailed me. Not to apologize. Not to ask for forgiveness. Just this short, cold message. "Hope you're happy. You ruined everything." I didn't reply. There wasn't anything to say. She'd already said everything I needed to hear the moment she smirked and hung up that phone 5 months earlier. My girls kept coming over. We played board games. Went for drives. Watched old movies. I didn't push for more than that. I was just grateful they were back. One afternoon, Sarah said, "You're quieter now." Quieter. Yeah. Like you're always listening. Like you're not sure what to believe. She wasn't wrong. Betrayal like that changes something in you. It doesn't harden you, not if you fight it. But it does make you cautious. It rewires how much of yourself you give away. And honestly, I think that's fair. Some people will take everything from you, your name, your story, your family, and then act like you did the damage. I started seeing a therapist first time in my life. Just needed to unpack the anger and confusion and guilt I didn't even realize I was carrying. It helped more than I expected. I stopped waking up in cold sweats. Stopped replaying that phone call over and over. Stopped asking what I could have done differently. Because the truth is, I was a good husband. I showed up. I worked hard. I loved her. And when someone throws all that away, that's not on you. That's on them. It's strange how slowly things go back to normal, even after everything blows up. But the normal you go back to isn't the same normal you had before. It's like waking up in your house after a fire. Same address, different walls. The girls started calling me more. Texts here and there, asking for advice, sending pictures of their cat, dumb memes, school stuff. At first it felt fragile, like if I said the wrong thing, the connection would snap. But over time, it became natural again. Like muscle memory. They started staying over for full weekends. then full weeks. Claudine didn't fight it not because she suddenly grew a conscience, but because she was unraveling. I heard through a few friends that she'd been trying to keep her head above water socially, but things were slipping. She stopped getting invited to the kinds of events she used to plan. People were cordial, but distant. The energy shifted. And in a town like ours, that kind of social cold shoulder is worse than yelling. Apparently, Travis dumped her not long after the church debacle. Probably thought she'd be some exciting escape from his boring married life, but real life has a way of showing up. Once his wife served papers, his kids wouldn't speak to him, and his boss cut his hours at the HVAC place. His shiny new life started to look a whole lot less glamorous. Claudine moved in with her sister for a while. I didn't care where she ended up, to be honest. For a while, I didn't think about her at all. I was too busy fixing my own mess, trying to steady the parts of my life that still mattered. One day, I got a certified letter in the mail from Claudine's lawyer. She was officially withdrawing the restraining order, withdrawing her primary custody request, and agreeing to a 50-50 split. No explanation, no apology, just legal language. I read it 3 times, then put it down. I didn't even feel relieved. It just felt overdue. My lawyer, Clark, good guy, dry humor, sharp as a tack, called me after reading it and said, "She's running out of leverage." He wasn't wrong. From a legal standpoint, things were finally shifting in my favor. But what mattered more to me was how things were shifting emotionally between me and my daughters, between me and the town, and maybe even between me and myself. I started waking up and not dreading the day. Started eating meals without that weight in my gut. Even started seeing someone casually, nothing serious, just coffee and conversation. Her name's June. Divorced, 2 boys, teaches art at the middle school. We talk about music, life, grief. I told her I'm not ready for anything big, and she understood. Sometimes, that's all you need, someone who gets the quiet stuff. Meanwhile, Claudine tried to claw back her reputation in little ways. Started volunteering at a local shelter, posting inspirational quotes about healing and forgiveness online. But no matter what she posted, it always felt hollow. The kind of healing that's more about rebranding than actual reflection. I don't think she ever really believed she did anything wrong. That's the part that still stings, even now. Not the betrayal, not the affair, not even the lies. It's the fact that she never once seemed to regret what she did to her daughters. Not the emotional shrapnel they had to walk through, not the confusion, not the trust she tried to poison. You can recover from heartbreak, but watching your own kids doubt themselves because of someone else's manipulation, that's a deeper kind of damage. That takes time, patience, honesty. One afternoon, Jolene was sitting on my couch, legs tucked under her, flipping through a photo album we used to keep under the TV stand. She stopped at a picture of all 4 of us in the Smoky Mountains, the last real family trip we took, about a year before everything went south. "You think she was already cheating back then?" she asked, not looking up. "I don't know," I said. "Maybe. She looks happy in the picture. People can smile while they're hurting you. Doesn't mean the smile is real." She nodded, still staring at the photo. "That sucks." "Yeah," I said. "It really does." But then she looked at me and said, "I'm glad you didn't disappear, Dad." That hit me harder than any court ruling ever could. Because I wanted to disappear, more than once. I wanted to pack up and leave, start over in another town where no one looked at me like a cautionary tale. But I didn't. I stayed. I fought not to get even, but to get back. Back to my girls. Back to my own name. Back to the version of myself I could live with. I started fixing up the garage again, not for work, just for me. Built a new workbench. Organized my tools. The girls helped repaint it one weekend bright blue, Sarah's idea. I hadn't touched it in months. It had felt like a graveyard for my old life. Now it felt like something else. Something still mine. People in town started acting differently too. Subtle at first. A few more folks waving when I passed them on Main Street. Bill from work invited me to his daughter's wedding. The pastor stopped by one day with a basket of bread his wife baked. "We all got it wrong," he said quietly. "I'm sorry." I didn't say much. Just nodded. Some wounds don't need words. Just time. About 6 months after the truth came out, I heard Claudine was looking for a new job. She'd quietly left her position at the hospital, not fired, just encouraged to resign, as Nora phrased it. Word had gotten around. Apparently someone sent the administration an anonymous packet. I'll give you one guess who that someone was. I didn't send it out of anger. I sent it because people who torment trust personally or professionally shouldn't be caring for others when they're busy tearing down lives behind the scenes. She tried applying to other clinics and hospitals nearby, but Knoxville's small, and healthcare is tighter-knit than you'd think. She ended up taking a lower-paying job over an hour away, somewhere out past Crossville. Commuting there twice a week, from what I hear. I didn't care about the logistics. I just knew it meant she had to live in the fallout she created, day after day. Her social circle? Pretty much vanished. The women's group she used to lead stopped inviting her to anything. A few of them reached out to me, awkwardly, apologizing for believing the worst. I didn't hold grudges. People believe the story they're first told, especially when it's coming from someone who's always been charismatic and confident. But trust is like glass. You can glue it back together, but you still see the cracks. What she didn't expect was what happened next. Sarah and Jolene asked to live with me full-time. Claudine didn't even fight it. Maybe she knew she'd lost them emotionally, and dragging them into a court battle would only make her look worse. Or maybe she just didn't want to spend that kind of money on lawyers now that Travis was gone and her job prospects had tanked. We signed the agreement, 100% legal, no drama. The girls moved into my little rental house, and suddenly the quiet space filled up with teenage music, laundry, laughter, and the kind of chaos that feels good. Like a second chance you didn't expect to get. One evening, after dinner, Sarah asked if I ever thought about moving. Somewhere fresh, she said. Somewhere not so full of ghosts. I thought about it. A lot, actually. But I shook my head. Nah, ghosts don't scare me. I've already buried the worst ones. They smiled. That was the first time I saw them both fully relaxed since this all started. Like they could finally exhale. A few weeks later, I was out mowing the lawn when Nora stopped by again. She does that sometimes. Brings leftovers. Drops off old magazines for Jolene. This time she brought me a little cardboard box. Inside was a small, handmade wooden sign. Burned into the front were the words, "That's cute." I couldn't help but laugh. She grinned. I figured since that phrase kicked off the comeback tour, you should keep it, she said. I hung it in the garage, my new space, my rebuilt place right above the tool rack. Every time I see it, it reminds me how fast your life can be rewritten by someone else's lie, and how damn satisfying it is when the truth writes the final chapter. As for Claudine, she lives in a duplex now, 2 towns over. Still posts inspirational quotes. Still tries to play the victim. But now, when people see her, they don't whisper because they believe her. They whisper because they don't. And that's the justice I never had to lift a finger to force. The thing is, revenge doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it comes slowly, like a rusted-out truck rolling downhill, unstoppable in its own time. All I had to do was stand still and let it roll. If you ever go through something like this, betrayal, false accusations, loss of family, let me tell you, the truth may not speak fast, but when it does, it roars. You just have to be patient enough to wait for it. And if you're lucky, you'll get to smile at the wreckage and say, "That's cute."